We're here at an amazing AWS Energy Symposium 2024. I'm Jordan Bloom, Editorial Director with Hart Energy. I'm joined by Shiv Trisal. Let me get your title right. Global Manufacturing, Transportation, and Energy GTM Leader for Databricks. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Really appreciate it. Just to start out, can you please just tell me a little bit about Databricks and what you do?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, first of all, and great to be back in Houston. So Databricks sort of calling card is what we call the data intelligence platform. So fundamentally, in an era of generative AI, companies really have a choice. You can have generic intelligence, which is, you can use the models trained on the entirety of the internet that everybody else has access to, or you can build specific AI systems that are trained on your data, the vast reservoir of knowledge that you have amassed over years and years. And that's what we call data intelligence. And that's what Databricks does. Our role in the industry is helping customers extract the most value of their data, build custom AI systems that are trained on their data, and making sure that they are always in control of their own data and control their destiny as they build out the next generation of their AI strategy.
Great. And can you kind of talk about how you're working with AWS and everything fits together, so to speak?
Yeah, so with AWS, we've had a great relationship. We're a company as Databricks. We're a company born in the cloud, right? So we're a cloud software company. If the cloud didn't exist, we wouldn't exist. And specifically in our case, we are a company that was born on the AWS cloud. It's the first set of software that we ever deployed was on the AWS infrastructure, and the first customer we ever landed was also on AWS. So we have a lot, to thank AWS for, without which we would not have existed and become a very successful, thriving company at that. And the way that we work with AWS today is, we position our Databricks platform, which is the data intelligence platform, right in the middle of all the data processing that an organization needs to do, all the AI development work that an organization needs to do, and that is highly complementary to AWS services like S3, like Kinesis, Kafka, and other capabilities that help for customers to bring everything together. So that's where we're highly complementary in a lot of those areas. And what we help customers do is really take control of their AI strategies and really deliver use cases that add good business value to their operations.
Very good. Can I get you now to maybe delve into a specific customer case and what challenges needed to be solved?
Yeah. So, typically in the oil and gas industry or the renewables industry, one of the most common use cases that we see is around predictive maintenance, right? So this industry fundamentally is all about physical assets, and physical assets have a lot of sensors, generate a lot of high frequency data, 1 to 2, even sometimes more data points per second. What we're really good at is combining our forces with AWS, is helping customers get faster insight into those highly complex data streams, build out what we call asset health scores. We then also understand the status of that asset so that you're not just maintaining things when they break. You actually get early warning indicators to when you need to go perform maintenance to avoid any costly issues. We help customers build out what we call remaining useful life models for critical systems on that asset to say, hey, if this thing breaks down, it will break down catastrophically, and it will catastrophically impact operations. God forbid, there can be a safety issue. But most of the times it tends to be an operational efficiency problem, right? So if an equipment's not working, you're going to have all the people there, all the process there, but the equipment's not working, you're going to have millions of dollars of losses per minute, right? So that's what we help avoid, those kind of situations. In many ways, we help work with AWS to go deploy this at scale. So what I mean by scale in this situation is we don't do this for ones or tens of assets. We do this for hundreds and thousands of assets across different locations, all different kinds of equipment, rotating machinery, and all that, and making sure that these things are deployable, these things are repeatable, these things are scalable across different technologies, across different sites, and across different business units.
You want to take the drama out of the assets, essentially?
Yeah, basically, and especially now, not just in the realm of operations. If you take a step back, with what's happening in the energy system, we see a lot of focus on what I call the mid transition. So a lot of people refer to the shift towards cleaner energy sources, and at the same time, you're also not retiring any of the conventional sort of fossil fuel driven energies. So from our perspective, one of the key capabilities that companies need to go deliver is the ability to forecast the impact of that on the grid, on how much power needs to be generated, as opposed to conventional energy where you can generate power output pretty consistently. Renewables don't have that kind of performance characteristic, right? They're impacted by multiple different things. Solar, you don't know when the weather can impact things. With hydro, there's hydro inflows, how much, and all of that impacts how much energy, especially with wind, how much energy you're going to generate at any given point of time. And I think there's, I talked about maintenance quite a bit in the beginning, but now we're seeing companies think about, hey, there's more than just maintenance decisions that impact your ability to take capacity on or off the grid, because you have to take into account what is the maintenance schedule of the asset. You have to take into account what the electricity markets are doing in real time. So a lot of that data needs to come together in a consistent way to help you go drive some of these real-time decisions. And this aspect of forecasting, this aspect of energy trading is even more pronounced as more renewable energy sources come on the grid. So these are all really hard data and AI problems that we help customers solve. And this is pretty much across the board, making sure that assets are running the most efficient way as possible. Operations are de-risked that way. And then more importantly, you have to make money when you produce energy, so there's a whole aspect of how do you forecast and operate your assets and get ahead of the curve in terms of how you want to deploy capacity in the way that you can maximize your profits in the renewable energy market.
Great. But you've talked about it some, but can you get into the weeds a bit in terms of walking us through how exactly your solutions work?
Yeah. So typically, like I said, a lot of the data that we work with tends to be industrial time series data. So fundamentally, this is the high frequency measurements that are captured from physical assets. And what we've done really effectively, partnering up with AWS, is what we've done is these industrial time series data sets used to be held up by proprietary formats or legacy database technologies that didn't scale for what AI and machine learning and now generative AI need to do. And what we've done with AWS is really take the power of Databricks, take the power of AWS and the ability to scale things on the cloud, is really help build out these frameworks around how do we make industrial time series data a first-party citizen in the enterprise AI platform. And there are a couple of different parts of that. Is you have to have the connectors to bring data in to the cloud. You have to have the ability to aggregate these data sets over long periods of time across many different assets. And then you have to have the abilities to build predictive capabilities, right? So you have to have the ability to run machine learning models. You have the ability to go deploy large language models in today's world. And bringing that comprehensive framework is super important. So that's how we work with a number of customers. An oil field services provider we work with very, very closely, one of the largest in the world, to help operationalize their predictive maintenance program across many different customers. They sell a lot of equipment to a lot of operators around the world, and they are very sensitive to downtime and making sure that there are some very advanced models that help them predict downtime risks and really be prescriptive about what maintenance actions their field teams need to take. So those are some examples of capabilities of how it all comes together. And the most important aspect of this is having good quality data, having the ability to really help drive a comprehensive approach towards AI and data management and governance, because you want to make sure that this data is good quality. You want to make sure that for compliance reasons, you understand how AI systems are being built so you can trace it back to the original data sources. So all of those things, we're able to do that. And there are specific capabilities inside of Databricks that allow customers to get that end-to-end focus on data and AI.
Can you expound a bit on leveraging AWS and what services you're utilizing?
Yeah. So with AWS, the most important thing, we feel, we championed as Databricks the paradigm of what we called the data lakehouse. And what I mean by the data lakehouse is, we have data lakes, which were typically meant for unstructured data, the stuff that we were talking about earlier, which is data from sensors and physical assets and really complex real-time information. And then you have more structured information, which typically was handled by data warehouses. So that's something that you can get from your SAP system or your Maximo system or MES manufacturing execution systems. Those are like, basically think about them as data that comes out in tables, right? And that's where we brought these two worlds that were initially disparate into one platform. And that cloud data lakehouse has now become the paradigm for companies to go build the next wave of data products and AI products. And AWS is an integral part of that, because fundamentally you can't do a cloud data lakehouse without cloud storage, right? So S3 is absolutely the foundation for something like that. We also work, there's a lot of real-time streaming data that we work on, and Kafka, Kinesis services, managed services on AWS make that possible, because we won't be able to run our processing at the scale that we do and the efficiency we do without AWS's complementary services. So that's on the front end of the architecture. And then, when it comes to more applications and delivering the end use cases to the customers, we partner up with AWS and a lot of ecosystem partners that run those solutions on our platforms, respective platforms. So those are some of the things that we are really excited about, and what we see AWS going heavier into generative AI, and I think that's an area that's of big interest for us, and we want to make sure that we continue to stay aligned as we have in the era of generative AI, as there's more and more attention from senior leadership at many of these customers.
Yeah, in that vein, what has maybe made you most excited with your journey with AWS to date?
Yeah. So I think from our perspective, we see a lot of opportunities for AWS to champion this movement of how do we take not just a cloud data platform, but truly an open, interoperable cloud data platform. And what AWS has leaned into with us in a number of sectors that I'm responsible for, and I see this across the board, and this is particularly true in energy, is nobody wants to buy fragmented tools, right? And then lock up their data in each of those fragmented tools. So the idea is, having an open data lake, which AWS allows us to build, and AWS allows customers to put their data on, and really allowing that data to be in the customer's control. I think AWS is market leading in that, right? And I think that's what helps. That's where, as two companies, our principles align quite a bit. And I think we're very, very interesting. We're very, very interested in where we can take this forward, because I think most customers are tired of proprietary formats and multiple siloed tools that don't work well with each other. And so we are bringing something that's open and integrated, that takes a lot of the friction out from fragmentation, and gives customers an integrated capability that then they can spend less time doing data wrangling, and they can spend more time identifying the right use cases, building things that actually provide business value, versus trying to plumb different systems and do plumbing around them, and spending a lot of their valuable time and capital on that.
Great. Well, lastly, are there any other benefits your customers are achieving that you might want to highlight, and if you want to include any specific measurements of success?
Yeah, we're seeing just purely, so I'll kind of break it down into two different areas, right? One is, you obviously have what people often underlook is when you're trying to build AI systems, you have a lot of infrastructure, right? And the way to think about it is, on public cloud, time is money, right? So if you run queries or processing faster than anybody else, you're going to save money, right? And what we, as Databricks, what we provide is the best computation engine, the best data processing engine in the market, period, right? So, and we run that all on AWS cloud, which is highly complementary. So what we've seen is, wherever we've gone in an account or in a customer where they've had a big data processing challenge, which tends to be the case in our industry, we've been able to cut down costs anywhere between 25 to 50% just on data processing alone, right? So that makes the the unit cost of data processing lower over time, and that helps customers because then they can get more value out of their investment. And then the second is more around the use cases themselves, right? So for predictive maintenance, typically downtime costs, anywhere between hundreds of thousands of dollars a minute to billions of dollars a minute, depending on which industry you're in. And oil and gas specifically, and renewables, these costs are more towards the millions of dollars per minute. So we've been able to get models into production 2 or 3 times faster than alternatives that are there in the marketplace. And that just means that customers are able to realize these gains, these 30 to 50% reduction in downtime or 20 to 30% increase in machine life. They're able to get those gains faster, and in much cases they're getting those benefits at the higher end of the range versus having to contend with the lower end. And so that's where, in predictive maintenance, those are the kind of results that we're seeing. We're also seeing tremendous results in the ability to forecast renewable energy output. So, we work with a customer in Europe. It's a utility company, so they basically operate, they're a distribution system operator. Fundamentally, they're responsible for sending electricity to your home, right? So, so their biggest thing is how do we keep the grid balanced, right? So you have all of the power. Now these days you have solar and installations at home. So think about how good the utility is in utilizing the capacity they have to go deliver power to you. And that makes sure that the grid remains stable. That makes sure that the prices, that the peak load on the grid can be moved around different hours. So there's a lot of things that need to come together in order for you to do that. And the first step you need to do is to understand what the load is, right? Understand what you're using in your home, whether you have an electric vehicle or not. Like all of those factors go into deciding how to best prioritize and deploy capacity on the grid and power in the grid if they understand in real time what the load profile is and what the changes are. So we do this for a number of low voltage network, basically distribution infrastructure, where it's all the way from your substations to your transformers, all the way down to specific appliance level monitoring in households, which helps inform what the net operational forecast for that utility company is and how they can go deliver it without having tons of outages or stability issues in the grid, which is very impactful to people like you and me who kind of take power for granted, right? But behind the scenes, a lot needs to go happen with data and AI to help you deliver power more safely and more securely, and making sure that the grid remains stable and there are less outages.
Great. Well, no, thank you so much for sharing your insights. We really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for joining us here at the AWS Energy Symposium 2024. Have a great rest of the day.